Jennifer Maria Capriati is a retired American professional tennis player. A former world number one, she won 3 women's singles championships in Grand Slam tournaments. Capriati made her professional debut in 1990 at the age of 13 years 11 months when she reached the finals of the hard court tournament in Boca Raton, Florida, losing there to Gabriela Sabatini. Capriati reached the semi-finals of the French Open in her debut and later became the youngest ever player to crack the top 10 at age 14 years, 235 days in October of that year. Between 1990 and 1993, Capriati won 6 singles titles, including a gold medal at the 1992 Barcelona Olympics, defeating Steffi Graf in the final. Following a first-round loss at the 1993 US Open, the burned-out Capriati took a 14-month break from competitive pro tennis. Her personal struggles during this time were well documented by the press. In 1998, Capriati won her first Grand Slam singles match in 5 years at Wimbledon. During the next 2 years, Capriati slowly returned to championship form, winning her first title in 6 years in Strasbourg, France in 1999 and regaining a top 20 ranking. At the 2001 Australian Open, the reinvigorated Capriati became the lowest seed to ever win the championship when she defeated Martina Hingis in straight sets for her first Grand Slam championship. She also won the French Open that year, claiming the number 1 ranking in October. After successfully defending her Australian Open crown in 2002, Capriati became a top 10 mainstay until injuries derailed her career in 2004. Capriati won 14 professional singles tournaments during her career, along with 1 women's doubles championship. In 2005, Tennis Magazine ranked Capriati number 36 in its list of the 40 greatest players in the 40 years of that magazine. On July 14, 2012, Capriati was inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame. Playing style: Capriati was one of the first power players to emerge on the women's circuit in the early to mid-1990s, along with Monica Seles, Lindsay Davenport, and Mary Pierce. Her style of play is characterized by taking the ball early and on the rise, powerful ground strokes, and an aggressive mindset on the return of service. Capriati's game was built around her ground strokes and movement. Her flat forehand, devastating when hit hard, was considered her biggest weapon, especially when she was stretched out wide. She also possessed a solid backhand. She was quick around the court, able to play defense as well as offense. Her biggest weakness was considered to be her serve. Her first serve was powerful, but offset by a wandering ball toss, and her second serve was considered to be the most vulnerable part of her game. However, Capriati was known to counter her inconsistent serve with her exceptional return of serve. Capriati was also known for her fierce competitive spirit. In 2002 Hall of Famer Pam Shriver deemed her as a warhorse competitor, saying that she was second in mental toughness only to Serena Williams. Career: 1990, Capriati made her professional debut as a 13-year-old, reaching the finals of 2 of her first 3 pro events, losing to Gabriela Sabatini and Martina Navratilova at Boca Raton and Hilton Head, respectively, earning her first 2 wins over top 10 players. She entered the rankings in April, at number 23. Capriati made her Grand Slam debut at the French Open. She went all the way to the semi-finals, losing to eventual champion Monica Seles. She then reached a 4th round at Wimbledon, losing to Steffi Graf. Later in the year Capriati won her first career title in Puerto Rico, defeating Zina Garrison. After this victory Capriati entered the world's top 10. She qualified for the WTA Championships, narrowly losing to Graf in the first round in 3 sets. She finished her first season as a professional at World No. 8. Throughout the season Capriati set multiple youngest-ever records. She was the youngest player to reach a tour final, the youngest player to reach the semi-finals at the French Open, the youngest seed ever at Wimbledon, and the youngest player to qualify for the season-ending championships. She was also the 4th youngest player to win a WTA title. 1991, in her second season as a touring pro, Capriati established herself as a consistent top 10 player. She won 2 singles titles during the summer hardcourt circuit, defeating world number 1 Monica Seles in a third-set tiebreaker in finals of San Diego, and Katerina Malieva in straight sets in the final of Toronto. She also reached 2 Grand Slam semifinals, at Wimbledon and the US Open. At Wimbledon, Capriati defeated 9-time champion Martina Navratilova in the quarterfinals, her earliest exit in 14 years, before losing to Sabatini. At the US Open, Capriati defeated Sabatini in the quarters but lost in the semis to eventual champion Seles after serving for the match twice. Capriati qualified for the year-end championships for the second time, reaching the quarterfinals. She ended the year at number 6, which would be a career high until 2001. Capriati also won the only doubles title of her career at the Italian Open, partnering Seles. 1992. Capriati's 1992 season was highlighted by her victory at the 1992 Barcelona Olympics, defeating second-seeded Aranjuez Nchez Vicario in the semi-finals and coming from a set down to defeat top-seeded Steffi Graf in the match for the gold medal. Capriati next defended her title in San Diego, defeating Conchita Martinez in the finals, in the only time that Capriati won back-to-back singles titles during her career. She reached the quarter-finals at the Australian Open, at the French Open, and at Wimbledon, and then she lost in the third round at the US Open tournament. In Miami, Capriati ended Monica Seles' streak of 21 consecutive finals by defeating her in the quarter-finals. Capriati finished the year ranked in the top 10 for the third straight year, at number 7. Also in 1992, a Sega Genesis video game titled Jennifer Capriati Tennis was developed and released by Renovation Products. The title is noteworthy for being the first Genesis tennis game available in the United States. 1993, at her first tournament of the year in Sydney, Capriati defeated third-ranked Sabatini in the semi-finals before defeating Ankuba in the final. For the second straight year she reached the quarter-finals at the first 3 majors of the year. She reached the final of the Rogers Cup in Montreal, losing to Steffi Graf. At the US Open, the 7th-seeded Capriati lost her opening match to former top 15 player Leila Meschi, her first loss in the first round of any pro tournament. Following this loss, Capriati decided to take a break from tennis. She finished the year at number 9. 1994 Euro 95, Capriati only played 1 match in 1994, losing in the first round of Philadelphia to Ankuba. She fell off the rankings in June. She did not play at all in 1995. 1996, Capriati, unranked, played her first match in 15 months at Essen, where she reached the quarter-finals, losing to Jana Novotná in 3 sets. She reached her first final in more than 3 years at Chicago, defeating Monica Seles en route, before losing again to Novotná in 3 sets. Capriati also reached the quarters in the fall at the Zurich Open, defeating Sabatini in the opening round in what would be the last singles match of Sabatini's career. Capriati competed in her first Grand Slam tournament since 1993 at the French Open and the US Open, losing in the first round of both. Capriati reappeared on the rankings in April at number 103, and finished the year inside the top 25, at number 24. 1997 Euro 98, in January 1997, Capriati reached the final at Sydney, for the second time in her career, defeating world number 9 Lindsay Davenport en route for her only top 10 win of the year, losing to Martina Hingis in the final. She only reached the quarter-finals at one other tournament, Oklahoma City, where she lost to Davenport. Capriati finished the year at number 66, having played in just 3 tournaments. Capriati did not play the first half of 1998. By the spring, she was ranked below the top 200. She accepted a wild-card entry into the clay court tournament at Hamburg, Germany, where she reached the quarter-finals, but then lost to Martina Hingis. Capriati was also a quarter-finalist at Palermo, Italy. In the first round at Wimbledon, Capriati won her first Grand Slam singles match in 5 years, before losing to Lori McNeil in the second round. Capriati finished 1998 ranked at number 101. 1999 was Capriati's best season in several years. She won her first title in 6 years at Strasbourg, defeating 9th-ranked Nathalie Tauziat in a quarter-final for her first win over a top 10 player in 2 years. She defeated Russian Elena Likovtseva in the final. She won her second title of the year at Quebec City, defeating American Chanda Rubin in the final. She also reached the round of 16 at both Roland Garros and US Open. She finished the year at number 23. 2000, at the 2000 Australian Open, Capriati reached her first Grand Slam semi-final in 9 years before losing to eventual champion Lindsay Davenport in straight sets. At the Miami Masters, Capriati defeated world number 6 Serena Williams for her first win over a player ranked in the top 6 in 4 years en route to a quarter-final finish. Shortly after, Capriati was sidelined with right Achilles tendonitis in April and an elbow injury in June. Capriati had a strong fall season, winning her 9th career title at Luxembourg, defeating Magdalena Malieva. She also finished runner-up in Quebec City to Chanda Rubin and was a semi-finalist in Tsar 1/4. These results propelled Capriati back into the top 20 for the first time since April 1994. She qualified for the season-ending championships for the first time in 7 years. Her year-end ranking was 14, her highest in 7 years. Capriati was also a member of the US Fed Cup team, winning a singles and doubles rubber in the US's victory over Spain in the final. 2001, Capriati was seeded 12th at the 2001 Australian Open. She rallied from a set and a breakdown to defeat Monica Seles to reach the semis for the second consecutive year, where she dispatched world number 2 Davenport 6-3, 6-4. In her first Grand Slam final, she dispatched top seed and world number 1 Martina Hingis in straight sets to win her first Grand Slam singles title. She was the lowest seed to ever win the title, a record that still stands today. She was the first player since Tracy Austin in 1979 to defeat the top 2 ranked players in straight sets at a major. As a result of this triumph, Capriati re-entered the top 10 in the rankings at number 7, the longest absence from the top 10 in WTA history. Capriati then reached the finals of the Cellular Cup in Oklahoma City, losing in the final to Seles. After electing not to participate at the 2001 Indian Wells Masters, Capriati reached the final in Miami, losing to Venus Williams after having failed to convert on 8 championship points. Capriati then embarked on a remarkably successful clay court campaign. She won her second title of the year at the Family Circle Cup in Charleston, South Carolina, defeating Hingis in 3 sets in the final. She then lost in the final of Berlin to Arma copyright Lai Mauresmo, also in 3 sets. Seeded 4th at the 2001 French Open, Capriati defeated top seed Hingis in the semis and the 12th-seeded Kim Clijsters in the final to win her second consecutive Grand Slam title. Her 1-6, 6-4, 12-10 win over Clijsters had the longest ever third set in a women's final in the French Open. Capriati was 2 points away from being defeated 4 times. She was only the 5th woman in history to win the Australian Open and the French Open consecutively. At Wimbledon, Capriati rallied from 7-6, 5-3, 30-0 down in the quarters to defeat Serena Williams 6-7, 4, 7-5, 6-3. Capriati's 19-match Grand Slam win streak ended in the semis at the hands of 8th-seeded Justine Henin. Capriati rebounded at the Rogers Cup in Toronto, Ontario, making it to the final before losing to Serena Williams 6-1, 6-7, 7, 6-3 after saving match point in the second set. Capriati then lost in the semi-finals of the U.S. Open to Venus Williams. Despite the loss, Capriati accumulated the best Grand Slam record of 2001, and she was the only player to reach at least the semi-finals of all 4 of the Grand Slam tournaments. Despite playing very little in the fall, Capriati became ranked number 1 on October 15. She lost her opening match at the WTA Tour Championships to Malieva. Capriati would have finished the year ranked number 1 had she reached the semi-finals. Instead, she finished number 2, behind Lindsay Davenport, with a 56.14 record. 2002, as a result of Lindsay Davenport's withdrawal from the Australian Open due to an injury, Capriati was the top seed. She defeated the 6th-seeded Alma Copyright-Line Mauresmo and the 4th-seeded Kim Clijsters en route to her second consecutive final there, where she once again faced Martina Hingis. The match was played in very hot conditions, with the temperature exceeding 35 degrees Celsius. Capriati fought back from 6-4, 4-0 down and saved 4 championship points to eventually prevail for €6, 7-6, 7, 6-2. This was Capriati's third Grand Slam title. Her dramatic victory is widely regarded as one of the great comebacks in tennis history. Tennis Magazine selected this match as one of the 10 best of the decade of 2000-09. Capriati reclaimed the number 1 ranking as a result of her successfully defending her Australian championship. In the spring, Capriati reached finals in Scottsdale, Arizona, and Miami, Florida, losing to Serena Williams on both occasions. Capriati prepared for her French Open title defense by participating in events in Charleston, South Carolina, Berlin, and Rome, Italy, losing in the semi-finals of all 3. As the top seed of the French Open, Capriati reached the semi-finals before losing to the eventual champion Serena Williams in 3 sets. Capriati surrendered her number 1 ranking to Venus Williams as a result of this loss. Capriati's streak of 6 consecutive Grand Slam semi-finals was broken at Wimbledon, where she lost to Alma Copyright-Line Mauresmo in 3 sets in the quarter-finals. She also lost to Mauresmo in the finals of the Canadian Open, and in the quarter-finals of the US after having served for the match. Capriati won only 1 match in the 3 European indoor events she played. She rebounded at the year-ending championships, reaching the semi-finals for the first time, losing to Serena Williams. Capriati finished the year ranked number 3. 2003, a week after the 2002 WTA Championships, Capriati had eye surgery in order to remove pterygiums from both eyes. Recovery from the surgery hampered Capriati's off-season preparation. In the opening round of the 2003 Australian Open, Capriati lost to unseeded and unheralded Marlene Wenger Currency RTNER. Capriati was the first Australian Open title holder to lose in the first round. Capriati said in her press conference that had she not been the defending champion she would not have played the event. She withdrew from the Pan Pacific Open to further recover from her surgery. Capriati rebounded by reaching at least semi-finals of the next 5 tournaments she played. She lost to Lindsay Davenport in the semi-finals of Indian Wells. She then reached the final of the Sony Ericsson Open for the 3rd consecutive year before losing to world number 1 Serena Williams. Capriati lost in the round of 16 of the French Open to unseeded Nadia Petrova. She reached the quarters of Wimbledon for the 6th time, losing to Serena Williams in 3 sets, her 8th consecutive loss to her compatriot. Capriati then reached her second final of 2003 in Stanford, losing to Kim Clijsters in 3 sets. A pectoral strain forced Capriati to retire from her opening match in San Diego and pull out of Montreal. Capriati won her first title of 2003 in New Haven after Davenport retired in the final trailing 6-2, 4-0. This ended a 28-tournament title drought for Capriati, and was her first tour victory since she won the 2002 Australian Open. Capriati was the title favourite at the US Open after both Williams sisters pulled out with injuries. Seeded 6th, Capriati reached the semi-final, where she faced second-seeded Justine Henin. Capriati served for the match twice and was 2 points away from victory 11 times, but Henin prevailed 4-6, 7-5, 7-6, 4, in a 3-hour marathon. This match was regarded by Hall of Famer John McEnroe as the greatest women's match ever played at the US Open. Capriati did not play again until the WTA Tour Championships, where she lost in the semi-final to world number 1 Justine Henin. 2004, Injuries plagued Capriati's 2004 season. A back injury suffered during the 2003 WTA Tour Championships forced Capriati to withdraw from the 2004 Australian Open and the Toray Pan-Pacific Open in Tokyo. Capriati advanced beyond the quarter-finals just once in her first 4 events of the year in Doha, losing to Anastasia Miskina in the semi-finals. Her back continued to be an issue, forcing her out of Indian Wells and Miami. Her ranking dropped to number 10 as a result of her injuries. Capriati produced her best results of the year during the European clay court season. She reached the semis of Berlin, defeating world number 5 Miskina in the quarters for her first top 5 win of the season, before losing to Mauresmo in the semi-finals. At the Italian Open, Capriati defeated top seed Serena Williams in the quarter-finals, her first win over the American since Wimbledon 2001. Capriati moved on to the final, where she lost to Mauresmo in a 3-hour struggle. Seeded 7th at the French Open, Capriati went on to the semi-finals, before losing to 6th-seeded and eventual champion Miskina in straight sets. At Wimbledon, Capriati reached the quarters for the 4th straight year, where she lost to Serena Williams 6-1, 6-1, in 45 minutes, the most lopsided result of their 17-match rivalry. A hamstring injury forced her to withdraw from Los Angeles and San Diego, but she reached the quarter-finals of both Montreal and New Haven. Seeded 8th at the U.S. Open, Capriati defeated Williams in a controversial quarter-final match to reach her 4th U.S. Open semi-final that included a disputed line call that some say ultimately was responsible for having Hawkeye systems instituted at Grand Slam events. The referee from that match has been replaced in the tournament. Capriati then lost to 5th seed Elena Dementieva in the semi-finals. Following the U.S. Open, Capriati lost in the quarter-finals of Philadelphia to number 11 Vera Zvonova 6-1, 6-0, her worst loss since 1999. Capriati failed to qualify for the season-ending championships for the first time since 1999. She finished the year world number 10. Injuries. Ongoing problems with her shoulder and wrist have prevented Capriati from competing on the WTA Tour. She has had several surgical operations on her wrist and shoulder, most recently in 2007. Accolades. In 2002, she received an ESPY for Comeback Player of the Year. That year's nominees included Mario Lemieux and Michael Jordan. She was also the 2002 Laureus World Sportswoman of the Year, in recognition of her success at Roland Garros in 2001 and the successful defense of her Australian Open title in 2002. In 2005, Tennis Magazine ranked her 26th in its list of 40 greatest players of the tennis era. Capriati was inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame in 2012. Post-tennis endeavors. In April 2009, it was announced that Capriati would appear on the ABC television reality series The Superstars. The show, described as a revival of the 1970s series of the same name, premiered on June 23, 2009, in a co-ed format, with Capriati paired with singer and actor David Charvet, best known for his role as a lifeguard on the television show Baywatch. In the first episode of the show, they were one of the lower-performing teams and were sent into a run-off in an obstacle course race against basketball player Lisa Leslie and actor Dan Cortese. Capriati-Charvet won their race and avoided elimination. At the start of the next episode, however, which aired on June 30, 2009, it was suddenly announced that Capriati had re-aggravated a previous injury during the first episode's events, and that as a result she and her partner were eliminated from the competition. Capriati appeared in an Oil of Olay commercial in the early 1990s. She also appeared in an American Express commercial during the U.S. Open. Personal life. Capriati was born in New York City, New York, the daughter of Denise and Stefano Capriati. She is of Italian descent. In 1993 Capriati was charged with shoplifting a ring, which she has described as accidental. She was arrested on May 16, 1994 and charged with misdemeanor marijuana possession. She agreed to enter a drug counseling program. In 1994, Capriati admitted that she had contemplated suicide due to tennis burnout and issues over her appearance and relationships. In 2010 she required treatment for a drug overdose in a suicide attempt. In 2013, Capriati was charged with battery and stalking after reportedly following and striking former boyfriend, Ivan Brennan, on Valentine's Day. Stalking and battery charges against Capriati were later dropped. In 2014, the state attorney's office in Palm Beach County, Florida announced that Capriati had completed 30 hours of community service and 4 hours of anger management counseling in connection with the incident. Awards. Significant finals. Grand Slam singles finals, Summer Olympics singles finals, references. External links. Jennifer Capriati at the Women's Tennis Association, Jennifer Capriati at the Fed Cup, Jennifer Capriati at the Internet Movie Database.